They topped it all off. They called me the devil himself. Mr. Koch said I should burn in hell. What do you think the aim and the purpose is of their using these kind of words? What is the purpose of such words being written by the press and spoken in the public by men and women of renown? The aim is to discredit a man by the use of false terms without any just basis. The aim is to create an environment of hostility around that man that will keep the people from hearing what he has to say. If I'm a hater, who wants to be involved in hate? If I'm a bigot, who wants to be involved in bigotry? If I'm an anti-Semite, see, they're trying to discredit the power of my message by calling me names
show
that
on
will
Blog Talk and the best show on the internet. Nobody, and I mean nobody, tackles issues like inflammatory talk. Shut up. And Mr. Midnight Movie. Shut up. And Jewish producer.
Hello, son.
Shut up. We tackle the things that nobody tackles.
Hello, son.
Demand answers.
Hello, son.
Stop walking on eggshells. Shut up.
Hello, son.
Goofy Bone can get off his bloviated fat enchilada ass and start talking about Lawaza.
Hello, son.
Jocking it. Pimp Daddy Joe Pete. Jocking it. Pimp Daddy Joe Pete.
Whipping the skippy all day long.
We're making a movie about white guilt. We're going to examine all these facts. Shut up. The civil rights movement today basically protects criminals.
Okay, stop interrupting me.
We're making a movie about white guilt.
Okay, stop interrupting me.
Shut up. We're making a movie about white guilt.
Done in a beautiful fashion. The documentary, at the same time, both prose and poetry.
It's not the noble movement that it was.
I'm above you on all these issues. I've been to the military. I have served in the capacity to protect your rights to bloviate. To protect your rights to bloviate.
Who are you to tell me what my style is, you meth addict?
I've been to the military.
How do you know I'm a meth addict?
I'm above you on all these issues.
How do you know I'm a meth addict?
You haven't served in the military. In fact, you wouldn't be fit for the military.
I'm a racist, and I don't consider myself an especially evil person.
What's this got to do with the price of rice in China?
Well, I'm just telling you, I'm a better man than you are.
You're a narcissist. We've established that.
Okay, stop interrupting me. You could not defend the very rights you enjoy. You are the ultimate invalid.
I put stock in you.
I'm wondering why Mr. Solutions isn't on Debbie Daly's show.
What's this got to do with the price of rice in China?
Money. I'm into aviation. Money.
Power.
Money.
Power.
Man boobs.
Shut up.
I see why Sick to Tank daddies kicked his ass and kicked him out of the house early on.
Man boobs.
Shut up.
I'm going to talk over you as loud as I can. I've got my speaker full blast to blow you away.
Shut up.
Mr. Midnight Movie.
My name is Delano. I have killed Mr. Midnight Movie. I've stabbed that son of a bitch.
This is
Money.
Power.
Money.
Power.
tired.
Money.
Power.
Money.
Yes. This is Inflammatory Talk. I am the inflammatory but diplomatic Mr. Midnight Movie. I'm laughing at that picture. I don't know why. And I would say the equally inflammatory but diplomatic.
I do try. Welcome to Inflammatory Talk. Who are you picking on tonight?
Well, I'm here to actually defend.
Well, first, let's see. Is there anything going on that we need to let anyone who listens to the show, anything going on that they need to know right now?
Well, right now we're keeping things, we're in an exploratory phase.
Yes.
But it's very clear that large social media wants to basically, it really wants to censor, and it wants to kind of be our parents. And these things were basically advertised as open forums, and they are not anymore. These are broadcasters, and they are deciding what goes on and what does not. And yes, someone said, I got your private message. Thanks. Yes. Well, there we go. I love it. It's all, first of all, the one thing that Jewish producer and I can both agree upon is freedom of speech. And
that is correct.
Yeah, not the speech you love, but the speech, if you can't defend the speech you hate, then you really don't believe in freedom of speech. So, Louis Farrakhan.
By the way.
Yeah.
I have been doing some research, and I've been looking really into programming, because I think that the civil rights industrial complex is based on indoctrination, and it's what we call the long game at play. This isn't something that can be reached in 5-10 years, one generation. I mean, some of these things are multi-generational. And if there's one thing I've seen in my research, and I'd like to do a show on this at some point, where we talk about, just take a walk through each decade and talk about some of the huge points in racial equality or racial discrimination, and I'd like to take it back to a time, but just prior to the civil rights industrial complex coming into real focus. So, maybe going back to the early 1900s, and just take it decade by decade. It could be a 3 or 4 part series in my view, but we could take it all the way up to current, and just go through and take a deeper look at some of the major changes that have occurred in each decade since. I think you might learn a whole ton of stuff. I think we both might get a lot out of that.
Well, you know what, JP? I think this. I think this has to do more with censorship. And if we're looking at the civil rights industrial complex in the years of history, anytime something or somebody gets in power, often they abuse it. And they abuse it in the name of what is good for you. They tell you not to listen to that. And for me, movies is my thing. And, one of the first things I guess moving pictures, the first thing they wanted to do was to censor it. And they wanted to censor it because it was things that were offensive primarily to Christians. And they claimed that these were American values. And now they're censoring it in the name of anti-hate. And also they're saying, what is a conspiracy? Like it's a conspiracy theory. So if there are any drugs that are given to school children, and they find, people are finding that there may be, these drugs are having really hardcore adverse effects. And the drug company has paid off everybody except for these fringe journalists that are talking about these adverse effects. Well, now that's considered conspiracy theory. We have to censor that. We've invented something that is an open forum, but if you don't go along with what we think, and it's really, a lot of it is a religion. A lot of it is like I think people should, it's under the theory that people should love one another, and this is how they want to tell you how to act and how to behave. And they want to say what's good for you and what's not good for you. And one of the things they promote is say, look at what these people say about you and how much they hate you. These people have to be stopped. Now, they say white supremacist, and then they'll say hate speech. Like I said, first it'll be white supremacists, then it will be anti-vaxxers, then it will be, anyone who's, pro or anti-Israel. You just take your pick on what you're not allowed to say to the powers that be. And you know what? You should always be able to speak truth to power. That is, and that's basically the most important part of the First Amendment, is you should be able, there isn't much you shouldn't be able to say.
That's true.
And, yeah. And that's my main thing, is you should be able to say what is on your mind, and speak your mind. And people say there should be consequences, but if you work at a hamburger stand, you make hamburgers and you make good burgers, and you say something that somebody considers offensive, that, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the fact that you can make good burgers. You know what? I remember the college that I was going to was protesting Carl's Jr. because Carl Karcher was basically, he was funding opposition to Planned Parenthood. He was with a lot of pro-life groups, and he was basically funding them, and they wanted to shut down Carl's Jr., which I love that place. I'm by the way, I'm still kind of pro-life,
yeah. And
I was pro-life. It was even more pro-life at the time, and I was like, why are you guys protest? This guy's, he's making burgers. This is not a pro-life group. I mean, the restaurant is not a pro-life group. It's just a place to get burgers and fries and breakfast sandwiches and the like. And it's like, yeah, I mean, the social justice warrior thing. I mean, this civil rights industrial complex, a lot of people are treating it as a faith and as a religion. And it's becoming really bad. And like I said, I think if you can't, and as it's been said before, and it was Noam Chomsky that said, if you can't defend the freedom of expression, it says, if you don't believe in freedom of expression for people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. And that's the main point. I know I've said that, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's really important here, folks, that we get, just our minds wrapped around this. We should be able to speak our minds, and we should be able to oppose individuals without fear of retribution, for the most part. I mean, if there are threats, but and granted, he has made some really not only inflammatory statements, but even sometimes he's done call to violence. But you know what? Like I said, I don't think that Facebook should ban him. YouTube should ban him. I don't think, like I said, I'm hoping to get to a place where we at least have some place where there is an open forum where we can discuss inflammatory subjects openly and honestly. JP, do you have anything to add? before we end this puppy?
No, it's an interesting study, though. There's a whole lot there. I think we should get into some of the oldest information about this we can find, and not just on the internet, but elsewhere. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to Inflammatory Talk, we are on every Wednesday night, and we're trying to find another night to do a show, too, probably on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a blog talk show, I believe, on Sunday, so we can have back and forth. The only problem is blog talk does not sound well on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, thanks for listening.
It is the best show on Blog Talk and the.
How do you think that went?
Well, it still went. It's still going.
Why is it still going? Why didn't you end it?
It's
show
still
on
going.
The internet. Shut up.
Hold on.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, tackles issues like inflammatory talk.
That's
Shut
it.
up.